Hey everyone, my name is Matt. Welcome to my shop. Today is July 27th, and this is my weekly shop update. This little guy here is JR. That's my son. That's pretty much the biggest thing that happened this week is this little guy was born early Friday morning, so just over 4 days ago. So that's been a fun experience and a fun time. What are you doing? You going potty? I think he's going potty right now. Well, you have to go back to bed, but I want to show you off to everybody so everybody can see what he looks like in the future home, his shop. 7 pounds, yep, he was born. Lindsay's over there giving me instructions. He was born at 2:43 a.m. Friday morning, 7 pounds, 6 ounces, 20 inches long. Boy. So now I think you're gonna go to bed now and Dad's gonna finish up this little video. Alright? No, you can't talk. Bye-bye. Say bye. So that was by far the most exciting thing that's probably ever happened to me before. And it was probably the highlight, well it was the highlight of my week. So that's what's happening with my life right now. I have the baby here. It's been really great the last few days. We've been spending a lot of time together and it's just been a lot of fun, and he's been really well behaved so far. He's been sleeping, so that's been nice. So not a whole lot change of schedule, I guess, but it's a little bit of a different lifestyle, I guess. So if you missed my little announcement video on Friday, I'm taking some time off. Well, I took the last 4 days off. I haven't done anything with the channel or the business. And then this week I'm going to kind of just work on it a little bit, and I'll probably get back into it next week, I think, is my just general plan. This week I'll probably start working on, or I'll continue working on the bassinet video, and maybe I'll have that out this week, but I'm not really rushing to get that out at this point. The other announcement was on, was it Wednesday? Yeah, Wednesday I did my live Q&A during the day. Let me know how the time worked out for you guys. I thought it would be kind of nice because it would include more people. At least the people in Europe could be, they'd probably be more likely to be awake at that time. This is probably about the evening there, and then during the day here in the US, some people could be, you know, at their computer at work or something, maybe watching it. Who knows? But I had a really great turnout, and I had a lot more questions than I thought I was going to get, so I'm really, really happy about that. So thank you so much to everyone who came and submitted their questions and participated in that event. It was a ton of fun. I couldn't have done it without you. So if you missed that Q&A, I'll leave a link to that in the description or on the screen, wherever that little icon goes. There. If you missed that, I did make one announcement in there, and that is that I'm going to start filming classes that I'll have for purchase. I'm not sure on the delivery method at this point, where you can go to buy them or how it's going to work, but I'm going to start shooting classes probably mid-August. I'm shooting to start shooting classes then, and I haven't picked my first project yet that I'm going to have for a video class, but I'm going to start probably by doing 2 classes so I can kind of have those ready to go for the fall. So that is the plan there, and the stuff on the channel probably won't change very much. It'll probably be pretty much reflective of what you've seen so far for July's stuff, so pretty much no change there. Today I got a new tool I thought I'd share with you. This is a little bevel gauge that I picked up at Woodcraft today. Lindsay was at a new moms, I don't know, group meeting thing. So I went over to Woodcraft and I saw they had this bevel gauge there. And I've been doing a lot of angle joinery stuff lately, so I've been using my cheapo hardware store bevel gauge for a lot of that stuff. And it works fine, except for one thing, is that it doesn't keep its angle very well. So you could find your angle, you could lock it down, and then just even putting this thing down or bumping it at all, this will shift, and then it becomes the most annoying thing ever as you're making your joints, and you put them together and you find out what's wrong. This angle's not coming together. Why is the angle wrong when you go back and look at this compared to what you set it to, and it's wrong. So this one here, it locks down really nicely. It has the locking mechanism on the bottom here, so it doesn't matter what orientation you have it in, you can always lock it down. and the locking mechanism doesn't get in the way of wherever you're putting it, so it doesn't matter which way you put it. So this was 28 bucks at Woodcraft, and feels really well made. It locks down really well. So I tested it out in the store. I locked it in, and I even just tried to nudge it a little bit, and it's pretty rock solid. I can't even move this. It would take a pretty good amount of force to move this, so I know this is a great improvement over this one. So looking forward to doing a project with some angles that I can actually use a decent bevel gauge on. So hooray! Finally solved that problem. This is my little treat to myself for being a dad. So the big thing I was working on last week in the shop was the crib before JR was born. And I was working on the spindles. I got a lot of them made here. This is the longer one. So if you remember from last week, the crib is, the back side is taller than the front side. So I have two different size spindles, and then the ones on the side assemblies will they'll get shorter as you get towards the front. So these are the longer ones for the back, and they came out of some square stock. This is, what did I make this, 15/16 I think, square stock. And then I turned it down on the lathe with the router to, it's still about 15/16 in the center, and then it tapers to a 1/2 inch right about here or so, roughly that. So I thought I'd show you the jig for doing that today, because that's really all I have. But as far as the spindles go, I've made mosquitoes, bugs, made a bunch of them. So I think I have about 15 of them done so far. So I got a whole bunch of them. And then I still have this many of the big ones, the long ones to go, and I still have all the small ones to go. It isn't super fast, because I do have to take my time with it, and we'll talk more about that in a second, to keep the cuts clean and the spindles from chattering too much. So let's take a look at that jig, and I think that'll probably be about it for today. So here's the jig for the spindles, and it's really simple. So it has a front and back. That's really the main component of this whole thing, and the top edge of the front and back have a curve in it, and that curve is just the radius of the spindle you're trying to make. So in my case here, the radius here is 0, and then towards the outsides, the start and stop points for my my total length before I get to the mortise, which I think is 28 inches from here to here. That tapers down, I think it's 7/30 seconds. Yep. So it tapers down 7/30 seconds here from this point. So you get this nice, really graceful curve here. And then all I did here is I attached 2 pieces of plywood that are spaced enough so I can have my router with my guide bearing, or my bushing. And that just rides up in here, and you go back and forth with the router, and the depth on the router sets the total size on the spindle. So it works really well. The only issue with it that took some getting used to, it took some dialing in, is the speed of the lathe. So initially when you first start turning this thing and it's full size, you can spin the lathe really fast, and the faster you spin the lathe, the cleaner the cut. But as the spindle gets thinner and thinner, it's weaker at the spinning, and it has a very high chance of, well, actually it does start to chatter and just kind of, I don't know what the actual term for it is, but I guess it's kind of like chatter. I don't know, it kind of pulsates, something like that. So you can see on the lathe that it's like whipping around, and it's not staying true. So at that point the router will kind of dig into it and it could catch. And I kind of had a couple cases like that here where the router actually grabbed it and just kind of destroyed it because it's spinning so eccentrically. But yeah, so the settings that I kind of came up with is the lathe, the optimal speed I found was 1400 RPM, and then the router, you can kind of move it back and forth. For the first few passes you can go pretty quickly, but on that last few passes I only dropped the depth down maybe a 32nd of an inch. A 16th is too much, and a 32nd of an inch is probably just about right, and I go pretty slow through the whole cut, and it works out pretty well that way. The end result is a pretty rough surface still. There is still some surface texture on there, but that's probably going to be pretty easy to take out. I'll just mount the spindles back on the lathe. I still have the mounting points on the 2 ends So I can just mount those back on the lathe after I turn them all and remove the jig. I can just sand them that way and take out all of those imperfections. And I think they'll be fine, and they all will be pretty consistent. So that's probably the best part about it. The other thing about consistency is the ends that are going to go into the mortises or the holes in the rails of the crib. I left the depth on the router so that it is just a hair over a 1/2 inch at that point. And then what I'll do is when I cut them to length, I'll pound just that little bit of the end through my dowel plate, and that'll perfectly size the two ends to go into the holes in the rails. And I won't have to worry about them being, you know, too big or too small. So that's my plan there. It's going pretty well, and yeah. So the other thing that happened here in the shop is, since JR was bored, my parents are in town, and my dad's here, so he's been helping me with the second batch of flooring. We started that yesterday. We got the whole stack of lumber planed that we're going to need to make the next batch of flooring, and then I think he's going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to do the rest of the milling on it, so I can finish up that flooring project as well, and that'll be another project on the list. So yeah. So I think that's about it for this week. Thank you as always for watching. I greatly appreciate it. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who left just congratulations and so many nice comments on my birth announcement video last week. That was really touching. Lindsay and I both read through every single one of those comments, and I'm still trying to reply to them all. But yeah, it's just so touching to see so many people out there really care and are just so congratulatory. So thank you to everyone for all of your support and kind wishes and all of that. And I'm getting eaten by mosquitoes. Who let the mosquitoes in here? Anyway, if you have any questions or comments about anything I talked about today, please feel free to leave me a comment. As always, I appreciate those. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And until next time, happy woodworking.